Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we'll go over Bleed Warpath 4.0, where the devs keep nerfing it every patch, but much like a cockroach, it refuses to die. Before we get into the guide, if you've been enjoying the steady flow of last Epoch content lately, I'd suggest leaving a like on the video, as that's the best way to support the channel. Bleed Warpath has gone through a large amount of changes over the past year, as it has received almost as many nerfs as Lich has, like when they made it so channeling made it so you did not regen mana, or when you completely removed Manifest Strike idols from the game entirely, or when they bug fixed Warpath back to 60% ailment chance. Warpath also received a rework, and it was way worse for ailment versions than for the crit versions of Warpath, losing a little bit of more percentage damage among a lot of other things. We did gain 20% chance to block while spinning, which means we can get away with running different shields than just a rare with max block chance now. But even after all those changes and nerfs, it still stands. With the legendary system, we actually can make this build much stronger than before, as 1 to 2 LP Tastes of Blood, Bleeding Hearts, and Wing Guards are on the table, allowing us to push the build even farther than before. We can also run one of the new uniques released last patch now, thanks to some optimizations to our resistances, which is Flayer's Pride. This shield was on my mind for a while, but I couldn't justify it until now, since we're actually require the damage. We're also using the powerhouse of Valdir's Chalice, not only for the bleed duration, which by itself is insanely strong, and the flat HP per bleed on an enemy when they die is definitely a large part of our sustain while clearing. This sustain plus Bleeding Heart is enough to tank most enemies. Even in 400 plus corruption, we can easily leech back all the punishment we take. We are also changed our idol scheme, as our focus is much less on bleed chance and more on extra hits, like Retribution from the base Sentinel tree and the Axe Thrower node plus Divine Bolt all give us extra hits, which we leverage with a large amount of generic bleed and, of course, a lot of bleed duration from the idols, meaning the 40% less ailment chance on Warpath is much less felt than before, which pumps our single target to new bounds. It's nice to see even after every nerf under the sun, we can still pull a good build out of the rough diamonds. With all that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? Alright, here we are in game with the build with the Bleed Warpath 4.0. So for skill rotation, generally at the start of a monolith, you want to do a sigil, like with a reversal trick to get your sigils up. And then of course, when you're warpathing around, you can actually just hold down Warpath and then click your Devouring Orb, and it will interrupt your channeling real quick, and then you can just continue on. This is actually really strong because you have enough cast speed to make it feel fluid, which is nice. So you can just like move around and of course, cast Devouring Orb every so often. Now for single target, what you want to do is set up your sigils. And then, so to not run out of mana on single target, what you do is you do your Devouring Orb and your Holy Aura at the same time as your reversal. And what that means is you actually never run out of mana because of that, as long as you do it properly. As you can tell, getting to like 200k ticks on the dummy. The thing is, it does not take into account Axe Thrower, which is a lot of our single target damage as well. That'll bring us up to like 300k probably very easily. So one thing to note, that's not all of our DPS. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the skill rotation. So for the actual skill itself, we take 2 points travel into Unchained, although the -4 of course is very strong, then 1 point in Reckless Spin. This makes it so Warpath costs 0 mana, so we can just keep Warpathing all around. We don't have to worry about mana at all. We don't regen mana, but that's not too big of a problem. As long as you make sure to not Warpath every so often, you should keep to full mana very quickly. You do need to run a little bit more resistance, but as a paladin, you get a lot of free resistance, so it's not too big of a problem. We take 1 point travel into Iron Reach, 5 points into Juggernaut Stance. So this is why we're able to run a Flayer's Pride, is because we actually get a bunch of block chance from our actual Warpath itself, which gets us up to 64% chance. For general monolith gameplay, it's fine. Obviously, later on, you want to upgrade to a Flayer's Pride with +1 LP with like some block chance, but this will service you for a while like it did for me. I was in 400 corruption, it felt completely fine. I take 5 points of rolling steel. This is a more multiplier to your ailments. We are not using a two-handed or dual wielding, so we're only getting 40% more damage with bleeds, which is enough because a lot of our damage actually doesn't come from Warpath itself. It comes from all the other hits we proc while spinning. Of course, we take 3 points into Quicksilver Wind for the movement speed while warpathing. This plus the haste from Wings of Argentis on top of the movement speed from Devouring Orb is a lot of movement speed, keeps us moving pretty fast in the monoliths. We can actually just have Devouring Orb hit for Wings of Argentis and we can just zoom through monos like it's nothing. Then, of course, we take 3 points into Gorebringer for just the bleed duration. There are like other things you could do with these 3 points. You could like go into AoE. You could actually try to go for Warrior's Fury. You could actually take the node out of Reckless Spin and put it to Unchained, so you don't have to worry about the res. There are a few things you can do with it, but that's generally what I found to be the best setup. Now for sigils, this is your stereotypical sigil setup. So I've actually received some actually good criticism about this, where I talk about the stereotypical skill setups. The reason why I do this is because this has literally been the same skill sigil setup, like core setup for like the past year. So it's just kind of annoying to talk about the same sigil setup every single time, but I will go very fast with this, but TLDR it. Armor, we want armor per sigil. This is a very strong node. That's very, 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 very strong. One of the main reasons why sigil is so strong. 5 points into empowering sigils. This is a lot of increased damage for us because we lack increased damage as a paladin. 1 point into last wish. This makes it so we sustain our sigils while clearing, so we don't have to keep using reversal tricks while clearing, but we do still have to use reversal tricks while doing bosses. 4 points into enduring hope. This is enough duration with the sigil, with the reversal trick, to maintain our sigils pretty well. 1 point to tetragram, of course, extra sigil. Then 3 points into sign of the guardian for the extra block chance. This is insanely strong as well, as it just gives us extra block chance. Yeah, that's pretty much it for sigils. This is your stereotypical volatile reversal setup. So we take 2 points travel into time sap, 1 point into time loss vitality. This reduces the cooldown significantly so we can actually use the skill properly. 3 points into warp time for the attack speed. I go for the attack speed instead because usually I'm using reversal on a single target to deal more damage. I don't really need the movement speed. 1 point into terminal void rift, 3 points travel to dark expanse, 3 points into harbinger of deaths. So the way this increased damage taken works is, for right now, it actually double dips with the double rift, if that makes sense. So we're actually making enemies take 60% increased damage because both rifts hit the enemy and apply this twice. This on top of the 60% over here means our enemies take like 300% increased damage, which is of course absolutely nuts. I really wish they would fix that, because even with 90% increased damage taken, this would still be OP and would still be OP to run. So it's like, hopefully one day they fix that. Then for Holy Aura, so this is a little bit different than last time with Bleed Warpath. So we're going for the attack speed, we're going for the increased physical, of course, we're going for the resistance. We're also going for Flame Burst. Why are we going for Flame Burst? Because it just gives us extra hits. Turns out just anything that gives us extra hits is pretty good. And this is one of those ways of getting extra hits. And if we pop our Holy Aura, we get a bunch of flame bursts per second, which will apply bleeds for us and takes our generic bleed chance and applies it. So we do so much bleed damage that it's just worth it. So yeah, who would have thought? Same thing about that. We got Devouring Orb. Devouring Orb is very nice because it gives us extra hits, as you can tell with those Abyssal Rifts, and they apply bleeds. And as well, as you run through the monolith and kill stuff, they will give you little AoEs like Void Rift explosions. And why that's important is because Warpath has rinky dink AoE. Like, look how baby this AoE is, right? You don't want to have to like go around everything and killing everything. While Devouring Orb is an artificial way of increasing your AoE significantly. So this is why we use Devouring Orb, and it blows up packs like nothing. We used to run Manifest Strike idols, but the devs thought it would be funny if they removed it. So we're stuck with Devouring Orb until they find a way to put them back into the game. So yeah, Devouring Orb is really strong right now. So we take 1 point travel to Void Adept, 1 point into Hollow Orb so that they last longer, 50% increase. We don't care about the scale, damage, or area. It's just used to clear trash. 1 point into Abyssal Emissions. This makes it so every 3 seconds we apply another Abyssal Orb. 5 points into Dark Torrent so that this happens more often. This just gives us more extra hits on single target. 2 points travel to Rift Collar, 2 points into World Rot. This just gives us even more duration. Time Rot doesn't matter for us. 1 point into Dark Moon makes it so that they circle us. Then 1 point into Abyssal Rush. This was nerfed from before. This used to just give you 20% increased movement speed, but they decided that everyone should be slow as turtles, so it's 6% instead. Although it does give us 6% increased attack speed, which is pretty neat. Then 1 point into Cosmic Impact so that the orbs themselves also hit as well. So if you're moving on a boss and you're like kind of like circling them, so you kind of want to be like on the edge of a boss, kind of like this, because the orbs themselves, they hit too. So that's very strong as well. So you generally want to be like on the orbit of the orb so that you kind of like get extra hits for free there, if that makes sense, which is really nice because the more hits, the better. Then 5 points into Sightless Star for the cast speed and mana efficiency. This makes it so it's like 8 mana, like inconsequential. And of course, the cast speed makes it so we cast faster, so we can move through monoliths buttery smooth. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Devouring Orb. That's it for the skills. Now for the passives. So this is a little bit different than last time. I need to explain a concept. So you take 1 point travel to Overwhelm, and then 5 points into Counterattack. We used to not need this. Like literally, we used to not need this. But with all of the nerfs, like with Manifest Strike Idols, like the Warpath nerfs, like all of that, we're actually kind of required to use this now because it helps our clear significantly. Why is that? So Retribution is a circle AoE. It like goes around you and it procs whenever you get hit, and it has a 0.2 second cooldown. I expect that to get nerfed. This makes it so that whenever we get hit, we just hit a bunch in an area. This will apply our bleeds. This will, this will apply our bleeds, and it's really strong. It just extra bleeds helps us kill trash faster because the main problem is we have plenty of single target damage. It's just killing trash faster, so we can just keep moving and have that buttery smooth playstyle that Bleed Warpath was known for back in the day. So to keep that buttery smooth playstyle, we need to invest more into stuff like this. 8 points into Fearless. Oh, fuck. 1 second here. Let's just pretend I didn't do this at all. 1 second. We're gonna fix that. Don't worry. No one knows. So we take 1 point into Gladiator for the extra block chance, 5 points into Armorclad for the DR because being near enemies, we're always Warpath, we're always near enemies. 1 point travel to Valiant Charge, 4 points travel to Axe Thrower. This is very important later on. Then 5 points into Blade Master for the attack speed while wielding an axe, which we are always wielding an axe. So that's really nice. Then for Void Knight, we take 10 points into Abyssal Endurance, of course, for the Void, physical, and HP, triple dipping. It's insane. 5 points into Sorrow and Steel. I found that this is more useful on single target than just having extra damage while clearing, so this is definitely worth it. And we take 3 points travel into Battle Harden, 1 point travel into Weapons Master, 1 point travel into Peltist, 5 points into Steel Aegis for a little bit more block effect. So the problem is we don't have that much block effect with Flayer's Pride. So generally you might want to go for block effect here instead of Shred, and that might help you significantly. Yeah, so that's why we're grabbing 5 points in this. Then 1 point travel into Peltis, then 4 points to the Shield Breaker. This, with the node here from Axe Thrower, allows you to shred on single target very well. Like these Fizz Shred stacks, like we're at max Fizz Shred stacks on single target instantly, and it's amazing. Then Paladin here, we take 8 points to Conviction, want as much increased physical and Fizz Pen as possible, 5 points into Honor for the block effect, and of course the block chance, 1 point travel into, 1 point into Divine Bolt. This is just simply an extra hit to apply our bleed chance again. So that's why we're getting it. 6 points into Valor for the HP, 5 points into Holy Simple. I found 5 points to be enough in most situations, depending on how much necrotic resistance you have at the time. 1 point travel into Sanctuary Guardian. I'm using 5 points in Faith Armor this time around because I am lacking a little bit on crit avoidance, so this definitely helps out. You could probably max this out if you need even more crit avoidance. 1 point into Shield Wall. We don't care about dodge, nor does EHG apparently, because they want to just have all the bosses ignore it. 8 points into Penance for the 120% bleed chance. This was nerfed as well because this used to be 200%. This will apply to your melee bleed and also apply to the axe bleed as well, which is really good. Then 7 points into Redemption for 49% bleed effect. We want as much bleed effect as possible. We're not running Salt the Wounds, so we want as much bleed effect as possible. Then as many points as we can shove into Reverence of Duality, and that's pretty much it for the passives. So for the gearing here, our idol scheme is a little different. Now we're running 2 bleed fizz damage over time idols. So we want duration and fizz damage over time percentage. This is your perfect best in slot idols because that bleed duration is insane. The fizz damage is insane. Like this idol is insane. And of course, we want 4 of these. Increase Warpath area and bleed chance idols. I'm running resistance idols because I'm poor, but obviously you want 4 of these, right? That'd be insane. And of course, like 1 resistance or like bleed or whatever idol, right? Then for our so you don't need this. You don't need this, and you don't need this, technically. I would start the build only if you have a Wing Guards, because the attack speed is insane. Either a Taste of Blood, or a Rare Axe, or an Undisputed, and a Bleeding Heart. Now, ignore the legendary part. These are the most required items for the build. People have asked me to notate what's the most important stuff. This is the most important stuff. This is the quality of life. You should probably farm this out first, and then farm this out on Empowered A-Bomb, and then farm this out. But yeah, that's just so that you know which to get first, what you should have before you start playing the build. Of course, Splitting Heart for the Leech, because there's no other Leech in the game other than Valyr's Chalice. Taste of Blood, because it'll make your clear feel good. And of course, Wing Guards for the attack speed. Now for the helmet, we want bleed duration and bleed effect, or you can get chance to bleed while wielding an axe. That's just as strong. HP, endurance, you want on the Wingtown base. Taste of Blood. I have tried an Undisputed. I have tried a Rare Axe, but I have found a Taste of Blood with just attack speed on it has, in shitty rolls, mind you, has outperformed all of them in terms of quality of life and damage. So, gotta give it out to Taste of Blood, everybody. Holy shit, who would have thought? Well, the thing is, since we're stacking so much duration, right, this actually is much stronger than before, which is nice. So when we clear, this pretty much makes it so all of our duration becomes effectiveness for bleed effect, which makes it so we can scale damage while clearing much faster, which is of course required to have that buttery smooth playstyle that Bleed Warpath was known for. Of course, Wings of Argentus. Don't go outside of home without one. It's like one of the best chests in the game. It's just insane. Now, people ask me, why is this insane? So, this is 40% extra EHP that is multiplicative with increased HP, right? Why this is so strong is because it lowers our max HP, right? But it raises our EHP. That means every point of leech and HP we gain, right, is 40% more effective. So imagine if this was giving us 40% more effect for our leech, and that is why it's so strong. And of course, the Bleeding Heart, I got a legendary one. This is one of the premier legendary potential items of the build, having fizz damage, damage over time, resistance, HP, or other resistance, or whatever else you can get on this fucker. This thing is absolutely insane. One of the best items I've ever crafted now. Taste of Blood for legendary potential, melee attack speed, fizz damage, Bleed on hit, of course, if you can get it, and of course, like chill on hit or health on hit, and that'd be insane. Flares applied. This is new. So this was released last patch. I completely forgot its existence. It's insane because it gives you generic bleed chance. This is why this build is viable, is because the generic bleed chance, which will apply to everything, not just our Warpath, and it also applies, give us even more bleed effect, which means we don't have to run Salt the Wounds, which is nuts. Now, the shield is a terrible base. The thing is, we can make up for that. Since we have all of our Fizz Shred from our Axe Thrower, we can run Block Effect on Fury of the North, which I was going to farm, and then you can run Block Chance from your Warpath, from your Sigils, from the tree, and also you can get an LP Flare's Pride with Block Chance on it, and Block Effect, and all that, and reduce damage taken on block. And that, plus that less physical damage taken on block, might actually be better than like a regular shield. So, all in all, very good shield. Rings, damage, resistance, block, endurance, crit avoid, same thing for the other ring. Belt, fizz, damage, cleanse, HP. This is like your perfect belt, just needs to be rolled better. Wing guards. Wing guards can roll with LP too. They're a little bit rarer than normal, but if you can get an wing guards with HP, resistance, endurance, or of course attack speed, you're in business, right? Slarm Greaves, obviously you want as much HP as possible. Obviously that HP should probably be crit avoidance, but I'm irresponsible and I like my boots. And Valkyrie Chalice, of course, this health gained on kill per sack of bleed on the target makes our clear so buttery smooth because we don't have to worry about dying most of the time because we're always at full HP. And of course the bleed duration, this on top of the bleed duration from our idols is enough to make Taste of Blood into our best in slot. And of course the generic bleed on hit is something we're looking for. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the gearing. Like I said, generally you want to find LP on a Taste of Blood, Bleeding Heart, Wing Guards. The rest isn't as important. Of course, block chance on Flare Spread would be insane. But yeah, for blessings here, we're going to talk about blessings this time. Rye, you could go for resistance or health on block. Ending the Storm, you want to go with resistance. Reign of Dragons, you want to go crit avoid, so it saves you some points and some room on the tree and all that. Or you can go bleed chance. Probably go generic bleed chance, actually. Fuck that. Go generic bleed chance. You want generic bleed chance from Reign of Dragons. For Age of Winter, we don't care about Fizz Shred because we get all of it from our Axe Thrower. So you actually want block effectiveness to make up for the fact that our shield is so dinky, right? That would help a lot. And then, of course, for Spirits of Fire, I got this sexy ass armor wall channeling roll. Oh, so close to perfect. Like, we're at, like, what is it? 48%. Oh, that's so good. So good. God, that's so good. The armor wall channeling, of course, best in slot. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the guide today. With all that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.